Welcome to the Awakened Impact podcast, where the new paradigm starts here. I'm your host, Kimberly Lebbing, master coach, trainer, and creator of the Paradigm Shift Method. In each episode, you'll hear real, unfiltered conversations with soul-led entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers here to create lasting change. If you're here to lead with purpose, embody your gifts, and create an impact from the inside out, you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Awakened Impact podcast, where new paradigm starts. And today's conversation I'm so excited about for every woman who feels the pull towards something more aligned, more impactful, more soul-led. And I'm joined by the incredible Sue Begent, who is an ex-Fortune 500 marketer turned soul business strategist. Sue brings decades of high-level marketing expertise and combines it with deep intuitive wisdom to guide spiritually minded women to simplify their business, clarify their message, and unleash their bigger mission. So in this episode, we are going to dive into what it takes to shift from the doing what you should to really building a business that reflects who you really are. And we'll talk about alignment, leadership, and how your message can become magnetic when it's rooted in your truth. So if you're here to create a ripple effect, lead with purpose, and trust your inner knowing, this episode will speak directly to your soul. Let's dive in. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you today. Just background for everybody, Sue and I have partnered up a little bit with her program, and you're going to hear more about it, but we immediately connected. Another coach had connected us and thought we would be a great match for each other. And she was right. And that led to this. So I'd love for the audience to know a little bit more about you. I know I mentioned in the intro that you have this background in Fortune 500 marketing, which is really impressive. And this is quite a shift to the soul-centered, soul-led coaching. I'm curious about your journey and that nudge to pivot.
Sure. My journey, I only have to open my mouth for about 2 seconds and people go, "Are you from England?" And yes, but when I was in my mid-20s, I left with a backpack, went backpacking for 6 months, arrived in Australia. I was a nurse back then, fell into the pharmaceutical industry, and that's what brought me into all of the sales and marketing experience. And so I was in sales for 4 years, then I was offered a job in marketing. And then a few years after that, I was offered this amazing job in the States in global marketing. And that's when I worked on my first global launch. And I went on to work on multiple global launches. And it was amazing sales and marketing experience. But it also, as I got into my late 30s, I really started to connect with the more spiritual side of myself. I started waking up and started to read and absorb and go and listen to speakers who were all talking about this very different world, but couldn't be more different from global pharmaceutical marketing. And so as time went on, I felt more and more divided on the inside. And I realized it just came a point where I thought, I can't do this anymore. And what do I want to do? And I guess the piece of me that was the nurse was always people-oriented. But now I had a whole new raft of skills that I wanted to use to help women business owners, and really coaches, healers, people who are really making a difference in other people's lives. And I realized that's what lit me up. If I could help them get more clients, have more impact, and help more their people lead better lives, that was really exciting. And I remain really excited about that today. It's what drives me.
Yeah. And it shows because you're just glowing as you tell this story. And I'll just say, with my own experience in this work, it's so fulfilling to be able to work with spiritually led coaches and entrepreneurs that are on this journey and are really helping with shifting the world into something amazing and something different. So
Yes.
yeah,
I really feel that we are leading the way into the future that needs to come into being. And it is already. It's growth is accelerating. People are awakening, and the people, the healers and coaches are at the forefront of that. What we're doing is very important. And it's why I hope no coach ever thinks to herself, oh, there are lots of other people who do what I do. There are so many people out there who need, and your energy will be a fit with some people and not with other people. Your people need you. So,
yeah.
and it can be easy to forget that. Yes.
It is. I'm so glad you said that because I do feel like that is that a lot of people think. There's so many other people doing it, and we get caught up in, and then can get caught up in the comparing.
Absolutely. I think every single one of us go through this, but it really is the truth. And I think it can be easy to tell yourself a difficult story, if you like, if it's hard to get clients, that feels like the market is saturated. And I think many of us have been experiencing the open rates are less, the engagement rates are down. However, there are a huge number of people in need. We, as coaches, are unique because our stories are unique. And what we bring to our clients is therefore unique. And as women, I think one of the gifts that I hope my work brings, and I suspect yours too, is to actually help somebody see how they are truly unique and how they really do have things to offer. Once you get there, everything starts to open and so much more is possible. You're owning your genius,
Yes.
which is one of the keys.
Yes. Yes. Gosh, I could totally agree. This is such a great, rich conversation so far. And I know that people are resonating with it. And I'm really curious about what do you see besides what we just talked about? What are the common struggles or you see these art led type women entrepreneurs and coaches make? What are the struggles that they're dealing with?
Yeah, I think there are some very common struggles. I think socialization as women over millennia often lead us to want to be more in the background. That's more of our comfort place. We don't feel as though we've got anything really important to say, but boy, yes, we do. And so there's that piece of it. There's the internal piece, there's the visibility challenges with visibility. What I see on the outside is when somebody doesn't have their message really dialed in and they aren't super clear on who it is they serve, they've really got clear on that. When they haven't got that, then what happens is their message is diluted. And that your message is what you're saying in your marketing. It's what you're saying in your posts, what you're saying in your emails, and anywhere you are, for instance, doing videos on YouTube. And it can be tempting to think, I need variety. I did that last week, so I'll do something else this week. It's so tempting to think that. And I, I'm human too. I know about these struggles. But the truth is, the more dialed in and the more consistent we are, the more we break through and we become visible above the crowd for our perfect people. What happens instead is we don't realize that we're not quite dialed in. We think we are. And so what we then think is that we're not getting in front of enough people. So we start adding things like, I'm going to add a podcast, I'm going to add a YouTube channel, which are all good things to do. But after you've got your message dialed in, once you're super clear, then those things can absolutely work. But what I see usually when people come to me, they've been doing this a while. They've been through Ideal Client and message work and they don't realize it's not quite dialed in enough, what happens is their business has become super complex because it's got all of these client getting pieces to it, and yet none of them is really getting traction. And so once you get your message dialed in, then you can actually really simplify your business. And then it stops being a hungry monster and starts being something that, I think when you're in that space where you're feeling overwhelmed, you've got all these things going on, and you don't quite know even what balls to keep in the air, it can be tempting to think, you see people talking about ease and flow. Like, like, wow. Actually, how? Once you have that message dialed in, then you really only need one series of steps, one channel that actually reliably bringing clients. And there are many coaches out there who make multi-millions who have one simple channel. This isn't, and so this is something that I love to see it in the sense that I'm like, I know exactly what's going on. And if you feel drawn to my energy, I know I can really help you with this. And that's why I say clarify your message, simplify your business. And that simplifies your life, actually, and makes a lot more room and space in it. And then the other thing is, over a long period of time, we've been taught how to do sales and marketing. But of course, the traditional model, and the one that I was in corporate, is, I'm not talking about gender here when I say I'm healthy masculine or healthy feminine or healthy masculine. Healthy feminine and masculine are within all of us. But the masculine energy, which we definitely need, is the get it done, make it happen, push, push. And the trouble is that the traditional model of doing business, which we coaches have also been taught, and healers, is to bring that same energy. You just do it. You just keep at it, and then it will lift off. That's the secret to business success. But I would say that is the slow road. It can work. We've all seen people who've been successful that way, but it doesn't feel good. And it can lead to tactics that really don't feel good to spiritual entrepreneurs, that can feel manipulative. They're unnecessarily pressuring people. It's a lot of things that feel very uncomfortable to us. And the wonderful thing about bringing more of the feminine energy, the flow energy, the allowing energy, is that you can be just as successful doing it that way. But we need to learn how.
We do need to learn how. So I resonate with this because it was a little bit of my own story, because when I started, I was probably a couple years into this, and all of my coaching and training from business mentors was from that mainly masculine energy. Oh my goodness, I struggled. I really struggled with that because it wasn't me. It was very pushy. You bring in my human design, which we're not going to go into all that. There was reasons why it didn't work for me. I did have a lot of success also, but it felt icky, quite honestly. And when I decided, I got to a point where I'm just going to stop doing all this and just be more intuitive and do many of the things that you teach in your programs. And everything expanded, blew up within a month. There's a night and day difference.
Yeah, it is amazing, because one of the things that we want to replace that push energy with magnetism. And that's also where once you get a message that is deeply aligned with who you are, that's where magnetism comes from. And it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. You asked me also, what other things, I'm just thinking of what other things do I see happening? I see undercharging.
Oh, gosh, yes. Let's talk about that.
Yes. And of course, that's all about self-beliefs and the energy that we're carrying. And it's about self-worth. I think one of the beautiful things about being on this journey, committing to starting a business, growing a business as a healer or a coach, is it is unquestionably a self-growth journey. And I think that there's no I think that it's part of the divine plan for each of us. When we commit to this, we commit to this growth. And that is part of our role in leading this whole increase in energetic levels on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. The deep work, it's,
That's where you come in.
it is, but it's never ending. Like, it's not, I feel like sometimes people look at me and they're like, oh, you're there. There's nothing more to do. And I'm like, no, there's always something there. It's just that we keep going deeper and deeper. And as we go deeper and deeper, we up level. So it's a big combination. So
I
I
think
love
that the wonderful thing about life is, and I remind myself every time this happens to me, I'll be going along and I think, gosh, I've done so much work. I feel so much lighter. I feel really expansive. And I know I do have a high vibration. But then something will happen. I'll go ping inside of me. And I'm like, why is this bothering me so much? And then I think, it's a gift. Even if the wrapping is ugly, it's a gift. It's just pointing away.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's good insight. Sometimes we don't see that all right away, but being in the place where it's like a personal growth maturity of being able to see, oh, that thing is happening. Isn't that cute of me to be doing this thing again?
But I think this is where the work that you do is so important, because I think historically, where many of us have been, is there's that ping, I'm all upset. I know it's supposed to be this, but this is how I feel. Is a world of difference to go, this is a gift, don't like the wrapping, but I know what to do. I have tools that can help me. And I think that is a huge part of what you do. I do a little of it, but this is really where this is why our partnership exists. Because I want my clients to have this, because I think that's always been the difficulty. And then if you don't know that you have tools, you have a reliable way that you can actually use over and over when it happens to you, and you know that you will feel better, then it feels like it's just pushing you backward. And you feel like you're going round in circles. And this is why I value your work so highly. And it's why I think it's so important, or why any healer who's listening to this, who also has tools, it's why your work is so important. We all have our role to play, but I think it's an important piece.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's mutual as far as the work that you do and how this all goes together. And I'm thinking about how the person who's coming in, and maybe they're newer, maybe they're not, maybe they've been with this for a while, but they might be feeling overwhelmed in their business. They might be feeling overwhelmed about social media and doing the post and all of that. Tell me a little bit about what first steps you would have them take to be able to maybe work through that overwhelm.
Sure. I think we all recognize that we've all been there. We all go back there sometimes. This is first. So first of all, the first thing to say is this is normal. This is normal. And it's absolutely fixable. So the first thing I would say is simplifying and also settling your nervous system. Now, I'm not going to go into tools here, and I know you have many tools as well, but I would say if you're listening or watching this, Google tips to help settle your nervous system. Exercise can help greatly. Being in nature can help greatly. Breathing can help. That's accessible to you wherever you are. And taking a nice breath in for 4, holding it 4, and then letting it out for 8. These are all things that can help settle your nervous system And I would say start integrating those on a regular basis and noticing how you feel. Because as you give feedback to your brain that, oh, I feel better, that you're going to cement that new thought. I know what to do. I know I'll feel better. Oh, yes, here it is. I know what to do. And so those are things that are really important. And even some movement before you get into bed at night can help settle your nervous system. And look up things like vagus nerve and calming. There's a lot out there right now. And I would say access some of those tools. And in my experience, some of the tools that are out there won't suit you, and some of them will be great for you. Find the ones that work for you. There's no prescription that fits everybody.
That is so true.
Yes. And that's great. That's a great thing, right? The other thing I would say is once you start settling down, give your space that will give you the space to look more in a more logical and ordered way of what's going on. Ask yourself, what's really important to do right now? What is nice to do? And then just take everything that's nice and say, it's not that I'm not putting on scrap heap. It's just on one side for the moment. And I'm going to get it down to core things like, and of course, the first thing I would say is get the right help to get your message dialed in. And the sooner you do that, the better. Then I would say, if you don't have a program, think about that, because it is much easier for somebody to invest in your work if they can see exactly what you described at the beginning. Yes, that's me. And then, oh, that outcome that now the steps in your program get me to is the outcome I want. And as they see that, it's much easier to invest, because I think coaches that can be earlier on in their coaching journey often don't have something specific. They know they can help people. They know that if somebody invests with them for 8 weeks or 16 weeks or a year or whatever, that they can absolutely help them on that journey. But what you want to do is help the person who's investing to see it more clearly and for it to become tangible. And beyond that, it's developing a simple message. And then many of the things I've already talked about.
Yeah. Simplicity is my love language. So I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but like simplicity is a huge priority for me. And I know when I'm personally feeling overwhelmed, yes, to all the things that you said, I have my own tools and breathing and tapping, all the routines that I do.
Yes.
But a lot of times I've added things in that I don't really need or that aren't really necessary. So I really loved that you said that, because I think people forget. We get so wrapped up in I have to do, and we don't.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so once you create this space for your nervous system to settle, so you are in that place within yourself that you can take a more objective look. Because when you're in a constantly triggered place, it's very hard to make good decisions. I mean, one of the things I would say is, for instance, I learned to do my online networking and interactions in 1 hour at the beginning of my day. And I set a timer. And after that, whether somebody replies, because you get all these pings like, so-and-so replied, so-and-so said this, and you get that little hit. But that's a hit to your nervous system. So it's far better if you say, tomorrow morning, in my time, I'm going to respond to all of those. You send somebody a nice message. They don't care whether it came immediately or whether it came 12 hours later. They really don't care, and that way you learn. There are a series of strategies that you can learn to really help yourself settle yourself and go, right, that's done. Now I'm going on to the next thing. What's the most important thing? The most important thing for most people is I want clients. So I start with, do I have a clear message? Do I have people responding to? Am I out there often enough Sometimes people are doing a little hiding. And am I getting in front of people? Sometimes people are in real life. I personally am loving networking on Zoom with people on LinkedIn. So but you don't have to do LinkedIn. I know that you are really loving YouTube. YouTube might be a slightly longer strategy, but do pick one. I did talk to somebody recently who told me that she was like on 5 or 6 different platforms every day. And I felt tired. I got tired. And people can get into this, and this does happen when your message is dialed in. You think the more audiences you can reach, the more likely it is that somebody will come in. But you're much better off picking one that you love. You really get to know it. You understand how to work that particular platform. Get your message right on that. And that should be all you need. You can always add more once you've nailed that.
Absolutely. And so this is a great segue into something that I want to discuss too. And that's just how the market feels like it's becoming more crowded and that engagement is down, especially on certain platforms. I know that you and I have had this conversation about that. And
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts about that? And how can somebody maybe break through that or deal with it? What are your recommendations and thoughts around it?
Yes. And I think this is absolutely real. I think there are very few people who are not experiencing some level of less engagement. And certainly in the business coaching side of things, it's very saturated. And that's a reality. At the same time, though, part of it is your energy. And managing your energy is such an important part, because I think it's very easy for all of us to sometimes we just go down the spiral, down the rabbit hole, particularly if we get with other people who are having that same conversation. We have these mirror neurons, and we can have these conversations, and actually we can take both of us down or all of us down. But when you think, for instance, I was having a conversation with a coach this morning about Facebook. Now, I personally am not a big fan of Facebook. I'm on there and I do post, but I don't love it. And I would like not to be on it, to be really honest. But on Facebook, why am I still there? Because even though people are leaving Facebook, for instance, and I think they're leaving the Meta platform, some people are, there are still millions and millions of people there. And within those millions, when you think about how many clients do you actually need to serve to have a thriving business, it's actually not that large of a number. And so they are there. The focus is, I feel like a broken record, but I know that the more dialed in your message is and the more consistent you are. And then I would also say, once you have that, the more networking you're doing. And this is where energetically you are reaching out to network with people from a networking perspective. You're not trying to sell them. And you have to be very careful. It's not something you can disguise. Energetically, people know if you have this subterranean intention. You have to be completely authentic.
Mm.
And I think that those two things will still get clients, even in a world where it's hard. It just means we have to be better marketers. And unfortunately, I know that's not great news for a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs, but it doesn't have to be sophisticated, fancy. I would encourage people not to get caught up in. I see a lot of big promises that I think are not realized for most people. I see people being sold, and you get this, and then you get this, and then you get this, and then you get this. All of which sounds amazing. For this amount of money, I'm going to get all these things. But what we're trying to do here is keep you out of overwhelm. and get the fundamental foundational thing so that you can have a business that feels easeful. It is simple. And you can choose when or if you add more things to it. So it actually does come down to getting that piece right. And although I know it doesn't feel good when I say we have to get the marketing piece right, the way to think about it is the more you come home to yourself, the more authentically you feel deeply connected to the work that you're doing. And once you've found that place, you're communicating from that place, the more magnetic you become. And that's the focus. It's not out there. It's like everything in life. In the end, the answer is in here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see as you were talking, I was like, this is where, when you hone in on that message, this is where you get clarity, confidence in talking to others.
Yeah.
And that's where the magnetism
Yeah.
comes in. And something I've heard you talk about, which kind of leads into this, or maybe we could expand a little bit, is that embodied leadership. Just can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that?
I think that leadership that comes from a place of personal power and strong alignment, we are leaders whether we are talking to one other person or whether we're standing up in front on a stage. We are, the truth is coming out, our truth is coming from within us. This is the truth we are meant to share. And I think in many years, women haven't felt like being a leader was something that they were or wanted to be necessarily, being up front, because we had a different model of leadership. This kind of leadership, which is deeply rooted in our truth, in the divine truth that's meant to come through us, is we're leading whether it's our family, wherever we are in the world, and with our clients.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. So I want to start to lead into wrapping up and how people can connect with you. But first, if a listener is tuning in and they're really feeling stuck between what they should do and maybe what their soul, what they feel like their soul is telling them to do, what's one thing they could ask themselves maybe to move into further alignment?
That's a great question. Everything starts with who. And if you do not get the who, nothing else downstream works. And often I will start working with somebody and they'll say, but I want to work with both men and women, or I want to work with all of these different types of people because I can help them. And maybe right now when they come into me, they're already serving all of these people and they enjoy serving all of them. But often the question I ask, is there a particular type of person that when they come to you, there's just a little extra feeling of excitement when they sign up? And that, I think that's a great question to ask yourself, because if you start by narrowing in on that person, first of all, you're really setting yourself up for building a business full of clients that you love.
Mm.
Usually, and very frequently, honestly, what I say to clients is also one of the first places I have them look is this person possibly an earlier version of you? And one of the things that's so powerful about that is because what makes for a powerful room and is the underpinnings of a powerful message is how you know that client on the inside and not just on the outside. Clients, the way I do a client is never about psychographics or demographics or anything like that. It is really about what is it that is going around, the thoughts that go around in their head that they're not saying necessarily to anybody, or maybe just one other person. Or they sit bolt upright in the middle of the night with this little thing going around. When your clients are an earlier version of you. You know exactly what that journey is. You've walked in those footprints. They're walking your footprints, but you know exactly what they are. And so when you are messaging, you can really speak to them from your heart, because in so many ways, they are a part of you. And powerful communication is heart to heart with the screen. That's what makes really powerful messaging. And
Beautiful.
mm,
Beautiful.
so that's where I'd have them start.
This was so good, Sue. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you being on here today. And I know our listeners got a ton of value out of this. Where can they learn more about your work or connect with you if, they want to explore a little bit more?
Yes. No, thank you for asking that. I am currently rewriting all the copy on my website. My website is not available. So the best place is actually LinkedIn.
Okay.
Because, you can find me on Facebook and you will find all my posts, plus other stuff, my dog and my friends and all of that. But on LinkedIn, you will find things people have said about me. You'll also find some of my historical posts. You'll be able to look back and take a full look at my profile, which tells you all about me. And I think you'll get a more comprehensive look at it if you're interested. And of course, reach out through LinkedIn or via my email, which is sue@suebegent.com. And one of the things that I do offer is a 15-minute free message evaluation. So if you are in a place where you are wondering whether you want somebody with expertise in this area to take a look at what you're doing and tell you, here's what's working, here are some opportunities, here might be why it's not quite grabbing them right now, but these couple of steps could get you there. And I'll share the link with you and you can please share it. I would be very happy to do an evaluation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for the listeners, we'll have all of this in the show notes so that you can connect with Sue either by LinkedIn or email or even better on that 15-minute call. So thank you again for being here today.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it was just a wonderful conversation. I hate for it to end, and it is time for it to end. So thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to the Awaken Impact podcast. If today's episode resonated, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's ready to rise. You can learn more about the Paradigm Shift Method at KimberlyLebbing.com or connect with me on my YouTube channel at Kimberly Lebbing. Until next time, keep leading the way.